The summer air hung heavy with the scent of blooming jasmine as I stood in my kitchen, sunlight spilling across the counter where I arranged a bouquet of wildflowers. My name is Evelyn, but those closest to me call me Evie. At 62, I've learned to find beauty in life's quiet moments, my hands still nimble from years as a florist, my silver hair catching the light like a crown of experience. My home, a modest haven with a garden that breathes life into my days, has been my sanctuary since my husband passed 5 years ago. I've filled my time with yoga, sketching petals in my journal, and the soft rhythm of solitude. Yet beneath that calm, a part of me yearned for something more, a spark I couldn't quite name. That July, my step-grandson, Caleb, arrived like a gust of wind through an open window. At 27, he was a carpenter with hands that told stories of hard work and a smile that could light up the gloomiest afternoon. His mother, my late husband's daughter, lived far away, making Caleb's visits rare and precious. When he stepped through my door, his embrace was warm, lingering just a moment longer than expected, stirring a flutter in my chest I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't desire, not then, just a reminder that I was still here, still capable of feeling the world's pulse. As Caleb settled in, he asked for a shower to wash off the travel dust. I nodded, pointing him upstairs, and returned to my flowers, trimming stems with care. The house hummed with its usual sounds, crickets outside, the faint creak of floorboards, until Caleb's voice broke through, calling for a towel. Smiling at his forgetfulness, I grabbed a soft one from the linen closet and climbed the stairs, my steps light with the ease of familiarity. At the bathroom door, I knocked, but it was already ajar, steam curling into the hallway like an invitation. There he stood, framed by the soft glow of the overhead light, his silhouette strong and unself-conscious. For a heartbeat, time slowed. I wasn't prepared for the sight, not because it shocked me, but because it awakened something deep within. Caleb's form, sculpted by years of labor, wasn't just a body. It was a testament to life's vigor, a mirror to a part of myself I'd tucked away. My breath caught, not from embarrassment, but from a sudden piercing awareness of my own vitality. I handed him the towel, my voice steady despite the warmth in my cheeks. "Beauty deserves to be seen," I said, the words slipping out with a boldness that surprised even me. "And in my house, I wander where I please." Caleb's laugh was quick, a mix of surprise and ease as he wrapped the towel around himself. His eyes met mine, holding a spark, not of mischief, but of recognition. In that fleeting moment, something shifted, not between us, but within me. It was as if a door long closed had cracked open, letting in a rush of air that carried possibility. I turned to leave, my heart drumming a rhythm I hadn't heard in decades, not with guilt or shame, but with exhilaration. This wasn't about Caleb alone, it was about Evie, me, rediscovering the woman who still dreamed, who still felt the world's colors vividly. As I descended the stairs, my mind spun with reflections. I'd spent years defining myself through roles: wife, grandmother, florist, each one a petal in the bouquet of my life. But petals fall, and new ones bloom. Caleb's presence, his unguarded energy, was like sunlight coaxing those new petals open. I wasn't chasing youth or breaking boundaries. I was reclaiming a piece of myself that had been dormant, waiting for permission to thrive. That moment in the bathroom wasn't a scandal. It was a revelation, a quiet earthquake that reshaped how I saw my days. Sitting at my kitchen table later, sipping chamomile tea as the evening settled, I felt a warmth that went beyond the summer heat. Caleb joined me, his hair still damp, his smile easy. We talked about small things, his latest woodworking project, my garden's stubborn weeds. But beneath the words, there was an unspoken understanding. We weren't crossing lines. We were drawing new ones, sketching a connection that honored both our histories and our hopes. I saw in him a young man grappling with his own path, and he saw in me a woman refusing to fade. Together, we were rewriting what family could mean, not through forbidden thrills, but through shared humanity. This awakening wasn't just mine. It was a bridge between us, built on laughter and vulnerability. As I looked at Caleb, I realized he was searching too, for courage, for authenticity. My boldness in that moment hadn't pushed him away. It had invited him to be bolder too. And for my friends watching, age 25 to 55, I want you to feel this. Life doesn't dim with time unless you let it. That spark you feel, whether it's a glance, a dream, or a daring thought, isn't something to bury. It's a call to live louder, to step into your own light. What happened next in that summer wasn't about chasing that first thrill. It was about building on it, layer by layer, like a garden coming into bloom. Caleb and I didn't need to define what we felt. We needed to explore it, to let it teach us who we could become. And as I share this story, I invite you to stay with me, to see where this path leads, not to shock, but to inspire. Because if a 62-year-old florist can find her fire again, so can you. Keep watching, share your own sparks, and let's discover what's next together. The morning after Caleb's arrival, I woke to the scent of coffee brewing in my kitchen, a ritual that grounded me in the quiet rhythm of my days. My name is Evelyn, Evie to those who know my heart. And at 62, I've learned to cherish the small joys, the way sunlight dances on my garden roses, the feel of a sketchbook under my fingers, the piece of a life I've built with care. But with Caleb, my step-grandson, in my home that July, something new stirred, a current of energy that felt like the first warm breeze of summer after a long winter. At 27, Caleb was a carpenter, his hands rough from crafting wood, his laughter a melody that filled spaces I hadn't realized were empty. His visit wasn't just a family obligation, it was a chance to rediscover connection, and I felt it in every shared glance. That day, as I sliced peaches for breakfast, Caleb bounded downstairs, his presence like a spark in a still room. He suggested we tackle a project together, restoring the old wooden swing in my backyard, a relic from brighter days with my late husband. I agreed, my heart lifting at the thought of creating something side by side. We gathered tools and paint, setting up under the shade of an oak tree, the air humming with cicadas. As we sanded the weathered boards, Caleb teased me about my precision, mimicking my careful strokes with exaggerated flair. I laughed, flicking a speck of sawdust at him, and he retaliated with a playful nudge. It was light, innocent, yet each moment carried a weight, an unspoken conversation woven through our smiles. I found myself watching him not just as a grandmother, but as a woman who still marveled at life's details. Caleb's focus, the way his brow furrowed as he measured a plank, reminded me of my own passion for arranging flowers, each choice deliberate, each moment a chance to create beauty. But there was more, a warmth in his glances, a lingering pause when our hands brushed passing a paintbrush. It wasn't about crossing lines, it was about feeling seen, not as a role, but as Evie, with dreams still unfolding. I wanted to lean into that feeling, to explore what it meant to be so alive in someone's presence. Inspired by a recent art class where I'd learned to find joy in bold strokes, I proposed a new idea, painting a mural on my garden shed. Caleb's eyes lit up, and we hauled out cans of paint, sketching wild ideas, sunflowers stretching toward a cobalt sky, vines curling like promises. As we worked, I accidentally smudged yellow paint on his cheek, grinning as he gasped in mock outrage. He dipped his brush and dabbed green on my nose, and soon we were laughing, paint-streaked and breathless, the shed forgotten. But beneath the play, I felt a deeper current, a mutual trust, a shared delight in being fully present. His laughter echoed my own, and I realized this wasn't just fun, it was a bridge between two souls, each finding freedom in the other's light. Sitting on the porch that evening, sipping lemonade as fireflies blinked in the dusk, I reflected on what this meant. Caleb's playfulness had cracked open a part of me I'd kept guarded, not out of fear, but habit. I'd spent years tending to others' needs, arranging my life like a bouquet for someone else's joy. But with Caleb, I was painting for myself, bold and unapologetic. And he too seemed lighter, shedding the weight of expectations, his job, his future, for a moment of pure connection. Our mural wasn't just colors on wood, it was a testament to what happens when you let go and let life surprise you. For those of you watching, age 25 to 55, I want you to feel this. Connection isn't bound by roles or rules. It's in the laughter, the shared work, the courage to be silly and seen. Caleb and I weren't chasing thrills. We were building trust, a bond that honored who we are now. What comes next in this summer story isn't about what you might expect. It's about growth, joy, and the beauty of rediscovery. Stay with me, share your own moments of spark, and let's see where this journey takes us together. The days with Caleb in my home unfolded like petals in the summer sun, each one revealing a new layer of connection that stirred my soul. I'm Evelyn, Evie to those who see the spark behind my silver hair and hazel eyes. At 62, I've woven a life of quiet beauty as a florist, arranging blooms to mark life's joys and sorrows, finding peace in my garden and the gentle rhythm of my days. But Caleb, my 27-year-old step-grandson, brought a vibrancy I hadn't anticipated, a carpenter's strength paired with a laugh that felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. His visit to my suburban home, with its rose-lined paths and creaky porch swing, was reshaping me, not through grand gestures, but through moments that hummed with possibility. That week, after painting a mural and sharing stories over home-cooked meals, I felt a growing urge to deepen our bond, not by pushing boundaries, but by inviting Caleb into a space where we could both be vulnerable. I'd recently joined a community theater group where improv games taught me to shed self-consciousness and embrace the unexpected. Inspired, I suggested we try something new, a playful act in my backyard, pretending to be strangers at a whimsical bookshop. Caleb raised an eyebrow but grinned, his curiosity as infectious as ever. "All right, Evie, let's see what you've got," he said, his voice warm with mischief. We sat up under the oak tree, using old crates as our shop and a stack of my dusty novels as props. I became Lila the wandering poet, my scarf draped dramatically while Caleb transformed into Jasper, the eccentric bookseller, his voice low and teasing. We bantered about imaginary books, tomes of lost stars, guides to forgotten dreams, our words weaving a story that felt alive. As Lila, I asked Jasper why he loved stories, and Caleb's answer, though in character, carried a raw truth. They remind me there's more to life than what I've planned. My heart skipped, not from flirtation, but from the glimpse into his world, a young man searching for meaning beyond his toolbox and routines. Our game grew bolder, our characters leaning closer, their banter laced with warmth. When Jasper complimented Lila's way with words, I felt a flush. Not as Evie, but as a woman rediscovering her voice. We laughed, stumbling over lines. But beneath the play, a deeper current flowed. Caleb's ease, his willingness to dive into this silliness, showed me a side of him I hadn't seen. Not just the confident craftsman, but someone yearning to explore who he could be. And I, too, was shedding layers, years of defining myself as widow, grandmother, caretaker, to find the Evie who still craved creation, who could lead this dance of trust. As we packed away the crates, Caleb grew quiet, his gaze lingering on the horizon. "Evie," he said softly, "you make this easy being myself. I mean, I don't get that often." His words landed like a gift, heavy with sincerity. I saw the weight he carried, expectations to succeed, to fit a mold, and realized our game hadn't just been play. It had been a sanctuary, a place where he could breathe. I touched his shoulder, my voice steady. "You do that for me too, Caleb. You remind me I'm still here, still growing." His smile, soft and unguarded, told me he understood. In that moment, I felt a surge of empowerment, not from tempting fate, but from guiding us to this clarity. We weren't chasing fleeting thrills, we were building a bond that honored our truths. For me, it was about reclaiming my spirit, refusing to let age dim my light. For Caleb, it was about finding courage to question his path, to see beyond the next project. Our backyard theater wasn't just a game, it was a mirror reflecting our shared hunger for authenticity. To those of you watching, age 25 to 55, I want you to feel this. Connection is a gift you give yourself, a chance to step into your own story with boldness. Caleb and I found something rare, not in breaking rules, but in rewriting them together. What follows in this summer isn't what you might guess. It's a journey of growth, laughter, and the courage to be seen. Stay with me, share your own moments of daring, and let's uncover what's next, because life's too rich to live half hidden. The summer with Caleb in my home had become a tapestry of moments, some bright and playful, others soft and unspoken, that wove themselves into the fabric of my days. I'm Evelyn, though those who know me best call me Evie. At 62, I've carved a life of gentle beauty as a florist, my hands skilled at arranging flowers to mirror life's fleeting joys. My suburban home, with its rose-draped trellis and sun-warmed porch, is my haven, a place where I've learned to find peace since my husband's passing. But Caleb, My 27-year-old step-grandson brought a new rhythm, a carpenter's steady hands, and a heart full of questions that stirred something deep within me. His presence was a reminder that life, even in its later seasons, could still surprise. One evening, as the sky turned amber and crickets sang their dusk chorus, Caleb suggested we tackle a task I'd long avoided: sorting through the attic, a treasure trove of memories I'd left untouched. I hesitated, knowing the weight of those boxes: letters, photos, fragments of a life I lived fiercely but quietly. Yet his enthusiasm, his easy smile, coaxed me upward, our footsteps creaking on the narrow stairs. The attic smelled of dust and time, sunlight filtering through a small window to illuminate stacks of cardboard and forgotten trinkets. We began sifting, Caleb's hands gentle as he lifted an old album, his curiosity a spark in the dim space. As we worked, I found myself sharing pieces of my past, stories of my 20s, when I'd dreamed of painting in Paris, of love letters written in hurried ink, of dances attempted under starlit skies. Caleb listened, his eyes soft, not just hearing, but feeling the weight of my words. Then he opened up, his voice low and halting. He spoke of his own fears, of a career that felt like a treadmill, of pressure to build a life that looked successful but left him hollow. "I want more, Evie," he said beside, "but I don't know what that looks like." His honesty cracked something open in me, not just sympathy, but a shared recognition of searching for meaning. The air grew still, charged with the intimacy of shared truths. As Caleb reached for another box, our hands brushed, a fleeting spark that echoed our earlier moments: the mural, the theater game. He paused, his gaze meeting mine, and I saw a question there, not bold but vulnerable. "Evie," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "do you ever feel like you're risking too much? Letting someone see you, really see you?" My heart thudded, not from temptation, but from the courage it took for him to ask. I knew he wasn't speaking of romance, but of something deeper, the fear of bearing one's soul and finding it's not enough. I sat back on the attic floor, dust motes swirling in the light, and chose my words with care. "Risk is how we grow, Caleb," I said. "Not by chasing what's easy, but by letting someone in. Really in. This." I gestured to the scattered photos, the open boxes. "This is a risk. You and me here talking like this." His eyes softened, relief washing over him like a tide. "I feel it too," he admitted. "With you, I'm not just the guy with the tools, I'm more." His words landed like a gift, not because they flattered me, but because they reflected our mutual transformation. In that attic, I felt a quiet power, not in steering us toward danger, but in guiding us to truth. Caleb's openness wasn't a challenge to boundaries. It was an invitation to redefine them, to build a bond rooted in trust. For me, it was a reclamation of my own voice, a refusal to let age silence my capacity for connection. For him, it was a step toward embracing his own uncertainties, seeing them not as weaknesses, but as paths to growth. The attic became more than a room. It was a sanctuary where we could both be human, flawed, and searching. To those watching, age 25 to 55, I want you to hold this. The greatest risks aren't in what you chase, but in what you allow yourself to feel. Caleb and I found a truth that night, not in crossing lines, but in drawing new ones together. What follows isn't a story of thrills, but of courage and clarity. Stay with me, share your own truths, and let's discover what it means to live fully no matter the season. As Caleb's visit drew to a close, the summer air in my suburban home carried a bittersweet weight, like the last ripe peach on a tree. I'm Evelyn, Evie to those who've seen the laughter in my hazel eyes. But at 62, I'm more than the florist who arranges blooms for life's milestones. I'm a woman who's learned to tend her own heart, finding joy in the quiet of my rose-filled garden and the sketches that fill my journals. Caleb, my 27-year-old step-grandson, had arrived like a sudden breeze, his carpenter's hands and open smile stirring embers I'd thought long cooled. Over days of shared projects and unguarded moments, we'd built something rare, not a forbidden spark, but a connection that illuminated who we both could be. On his final morning, we sat on the porch swing we'd restored together, its fresh paint gleaming under the dawn's soft light. The garden shed bore our mural, sunflowers and vines, curling toward a hopeful sky, a testament to our laughter and trust. Over coffee, steam rising in delicate spirals, I felt a pang, not of loss, but of gratitude so deep it ached. Caleb's presence had been a mirror reflecting a version of me I'd nearly forgotten, bold, curious, alive. As we watched the sunrise, he turned to me, his voice steady but thick with feeling. Evie, you've changed something in me, he said. I'm leaving here, braver, pure, I think, ready to ask what I really don't want from life. His words landed like petals, soft but heavy with meaning, and I smiled, nudging his shoulder. You did that yourself, Caleb. I just held the light. But his confession wasn't the end. It was a beginning, a seed planted in us both. For Caleb, it was the courage to question his path, to see his work and dreams not as burdens, but as choices. For me, it was a reawakening, a refusal to let time dictate my story's shape. As he spoke, I saw flashes of our summer, the paint on his cheek, our backyard theater, the attic's quiet truths, and realized they weren't fleeting moments but roots, grounding me in a new season of growth. I wasn't saying goodbye to Caleb's spark. I was carrying it forward, letting it bloom in ways I hadn't dared imagine. When he drove away, his truck fading down the street, I stood in my garden, the roses nodding in the breeze. The silence wasn't empty, it hummed with possibility. Inspired by our time, I joined a pottery class, my hands shaping clay into vessels that held my hopes. Each curve and glaze felt like a promise to myself to create, to explore, to live without apology. I began hosting suppers under the stars, neighbors gathering around my table to share stories of their own reinventions. One evening, as laughter rose over plates of grilled vegetables, I saw Caleb's influence in the ease I felt, not as a grandmother hosting, but as Evie, a woman inviting life in. I started a journal, not just for sketches, but for words, pouring out lessons learned in that summer's glow. I wrote of courage found in unexpected places, of bonds that transcend roles, of the freedom to redefine what matters. Sharing those pages online, I found others, men and women from 25 to 55, who resonated, their comments weaving a community of dreamers unafraid to start anew. Each post was a step beyond my garden, a way to honor the spark Caleb and I had kindled, not by clinging to it, but by letting it ignite new fires. Looking back, that summer wasn't about one moment or one person. It was about permission. Permission to feel deeply, to question quietly, to grow fiercely. Caleb and I didn't break rules, we rewrote them, crafting a connection that empowered us both. For him, it was a push toward authenticity. For me, it was a leap into a life unbound by age or expectation. My garden, my clay, my words, they're all petals of that truth, blooming in the light we found together. To those watching, I say this: life doesn't pause unless you let it. Whether you're 25 or 55, there's a spark waiting, maybe in a conversation, a craft, or a quiet morning with someone who sees you. Sees it, not to chase thrills, but to build something true. My story with Caleb isn't over, it's a chapter, one I carry as I step forward. Join me, share your own beginnings, and let's write the next page together, fearless and full of light.